Good afternoon, all. I'd like to call this meeting to order, please. And can we all stand? Can we have roll call? I'm sorry.
Yes. Mrs. Anderson?
Here.
Mr. Hopkins?
Here.
Mr. Jones? Here. Ms. Page?
Here.
Ms. Quintern? Madam Chair, the clerk certifies the presence of a quorum.
Thank you. Can we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you very much. Dr. Hornick, are there any adjustments to the agenda, sir?
Yes, ma'am. You start as we've been doing in other scenarios like this. If the board would be okay if we slid letter A, our presentation for an overnight field trip. Our teacher, principal, the student, and mom, I believe, is here this evening, and so we would like to move that forward to let them present their overnight request before we get into the meat of the agenda this evening. Morning, evening. And the other one is, and thank you, Mr. Hopkins, it was a board member item last month in October, but you will see it now as letter H in your document online, in consideration of the 2023 proposed legislative positions that Mr. Hopkins spoke of last time. We need to bring those forward. So those are now added as letter H.
Okay, thank you. Hearing these adjustments, can I have a motion to approve and accept?
I make a motion we approve the agenda as presented.
Okay, can I have a second? Second. All in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Thank you. And at this time, we'll go down to consent agenda. The minutes and financial reports. Can I have I'll ask for a motion to accept these, please?
Okay, I'll do it. Just a minute. I make a motion we approve the minutes of the July 24th meeting, the minutes of the August 21st meeting, food services report, and October financial report as presented.
Thank you. Can I have a second, please?
I'll second.
All in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. And monthly operating bills.
I make a motion we approve the monthly operating bills in the amount of $6,106,894.71.
Okay, can I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. And at this time, we will do the presentation of the field trip.
Yes, ma'am. So at this time, we have Mr. Price and Ms. Somar here. So if you all would like to come over, and they are going to present an amazing opportunity for an overnight field trip request that we are very excited about. So I will turn it over to Mr. Price and Ms. Somar.
All right. We're here to present the proposal for the overnight trip for my student Ian Amos, a senior at high school, to attend the Virginia Music Educators Association Senior Honors Choir this coming weekend in Richmond. This is an event that Ian had to go audition for. Virtually, he learned a art song from the Baroque period and also did sight reading. And unlike Allstate, which Ian also made last year, there's no cap per area of Virginia. So he was competing against all of the other base ones in the entire state of Virginia, and he was the 15th out of more than 80, I think. So it's a really high honor for Ian, and we are just very happy that the board was willing to hear our proposal. The schedule, as you can see, is sort of attached. Ian's going to be in rehearsals for all day. And we will both be staying at the Marriott. I'm down there for a conference, so I'll be able to check on it. Mr. Price.
Board, it's my pleasure to introduce Ian to you guys tonight, an outstanding student that we have. So proud of his accomplishments. This is equitable to being selected for an all-state team. He has been chosen to be the best of the best, and we're very proud of his accomplishments. And we look forward to hearing about all the good things he has to come. We ask if you guys would please approve this field trip. Ms. Somar and Ian and his mom will be attending this event in Richmond, and we'll be able to come back and make our programs even better. Thank you.
Thank you. So, I would entertain a motion to accept this.
I move to approve the overnight field trip request.
Okay, can I have a second?
Second?
All in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. And I'd just like to say, if you've not had a chance to hear Ian sing or perform with the 4 county players, I would encourage you to go see him as well as at the high school. Much love to you, Ian.
Good luck.
Congratulations, Ian, Ms. Somar. Thank you all very much. And Madam Chair, that will end that part, and then we'll come back after a public comment.
All righty, thank you. You guys can sneak out if you want, or,
Can you sneak a quick picture real quick?
oh, absolutely.
Let's do it.
You want me to take it?
You want to go ahead? Yeah.
I'll go
It's
take
fine.
it.
Come take it.
Okay. You gonna go?
I am.
All right, Ian, hang on.
Ian,
Dr.
can I
Hornick's
sneak in with
coming.
you too?
Yes.
All right, I'll go. Wait a minute, I'm coming. I know that.
Really appreciate you, thank you. Really appreciate you guys adjusting to it.
Thank you very much.
All righty, and that being concluded, we will go to public comment. Mrs. Byram, do we have anyone signed up for public comment?
Yes, ma'am. We have 4 speakers. The
Righty?
first 2 are Steve Keeler and Rob Batera.
Okie dokie. I see that Mr. Keeler is shaking his head to come off the list.
Come off the list?
Okay, thank you. Noted.
Good evening. I don't really have much to say, but I just wanted to personally thank you, Mike, for your service to the school board. Your willingness to meet with me and other people when we had major concerns was really great. I know you had a busy schedule, but you always made time for the people in your district to meet with us and let us be heard. And that's really appreciated. Jim, wow. Your just dedication to the school board over the years was amazing. We hate to see you go too, and I'm gonna miss seeing you up here at the central office. I hope you come by every once in a while just to say hi, but really, thank you so much for all that you've done for Orange County. It's noticed and it's appreciated. Sherry, your willingness, I'm sorry, to do the right thing, even when it wasn't popular, is so commendable. Thank you so much. And whenever I'm at the Iron Pipe, you're never gonna have to buy a beer. All right.
Thank you, Rob.
All right. The next 2 speakers are Emily Potts and Sarah Yeager.
Hi, all. So, thank you for your service, for what you guys have done. What I'm here to talk about, I've heard about it for the last couple of weeks, and I've heard about it from parents, that we have an issue in Orange County High School with physical altercations. On the 3rd of November, my kid called me crying in her chorus class because some kid had gotten stabbed with a pencil. During that week, there were more fights than anybody wants to admit. I've heard 6, I've heard 17, I've heard 20. A lot of this has to do with bullying. We were supposed to do something in the strategic plan on bullying and making us a safer place for kids. Something's not being done because something's not being enforced because we have 6 to 20 fights in a week in high school. There's something there. The other thing is in the elementary school and the middle school, I remember from middle school that phones were not allowed to be used. That is part of the problem with the physical altercations, is these kids in the high school, they're allowed to use their phone at any point in time during the day. And most of them are being videotaped and put on Snapchat, Facebook, Instagram, all the social media that's out there. We need to do something about this. And this starts at the top, starts with you guys. Yes, it's us as parents to, talk to our kids about bullying and fighting and walking away from the fight. But enforcement of the rules need to come from the top down, and something needs to be done. So that's all I got. But thanks.
Good evening, Superintendent Hornick, members of the board. First of all, I wanted to thank Mr. Hopkins, Mr. Jones, and Sherry, you know my heart, for your tireless and selfless service to Orange County Public Schools. I'm here tonight to discuss a matter of concern regarding school board member attendance. As a board member myself of a local nonprofit, our bylaws clearly state that board members are considered in dereliction of duty and automatically removed from the school board if they miss over a certain number of board meetings annually. By public account, Chelsea Quintern has missed 8 board meetings, including tonight's, out of a total of 24 annual meetings for 2023, which calculates to missing 1/3 of all meetings. If we were discussing a student's attendance, this would be a dire case of absenteeism that would likely have been elevated to legal remediation. So far, there have been no announcements that Ms. Quintern has made reasonable accommodations to attend any of these meetings virtually. She is a paid public servant elected to perform her duty on the school board to the best of her ability. I understand the needs for medical and familial leaves of absence. I myself have taken unpaid maternity leave and short-term disability leave due to epilepsy, but what I'm asking for is transparency with the public about how this has been handled according to state law and local policy in Ms. Quintern's case. I've scoured the state and Orange County Public School policies regarding mandatory attendance of school board members and what constitutes dereliction of duty to no avail. If the superintendent or school's lawyer has specifics on those policies, the public should be able to easily access them. If there is currently no policy outlined regarding this matter, it would behoove the school board to create one. The residents of District 4 deserve to know that they have a school board representative performing the duties he or she is elected and financially compensated to do. I do look forward to hearing an answer regarding this matter, and I also look forward to seeing how the new school board members taking their positions in January can hopefully bring more cohesion and cooperation to the school system. From speaking with many teachers, I've heard the primary source of stress they find in their job today comes not from students but from the administration. How will this new school board affect positive change so that we don't keep losing wonderful teachers we cannot afford to lose? Frequent policy changes, fear of what can and cannot be taught, constant changes in teaching techniques, changes in testing schedules, and onerous administrative work must be addressed in the best way possible given the constraints of state guidelines that must be followed. But I look forward to continuing to closely follow the actions of this board as it directly affects my children, my neighbors, my friends, my entire community, this community of Orange.
There are no other speakers.
Okay. If there are no other speakers, I will declare public comment closed at this time. And we will continue with the business at hand. Dr. Horning?
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. At this time, I'll bring Susan Ayler forward. Welcome back, Susan. And this is to give an update and to take a look at where we stand and get the board's take on our work that we've done over the last number of months, probably at least 6 since February, on character education in schools. So, Susan, I'll let you take it from here.
As you remember, I was here, I believe it was August, presenting what our committee had put together as far as our curriculum for character education. It was time for us as a school division to revisit what we were using and also make sure everything that we were using aligns with the Virginia Department of Education. So our committee got together, we went through and we talked about different essential skills that we felt were important and appropriate at different ages. We went through resources and also strategies. Our goal was to make a document that was easy for teachers, counselors, and other school personnel to use, and that met the guidelines that feedback we had gotten before the committee started. So when we brought the resource guide forward in August, our next step was we asked for permission to post it online, and so we did. And it was actually up there for more than 30 days on the school division's website, and we had a survey where parents could then respond. We did get good responses. I will say we only had about 6 individuals go through the guide and actually fill out the survey. There could have been others who went through the guide, but there were only 6 that actually completed the survey. Of the 6 that did, 100% said that they were satisfied with the overall content. They ranked it positive for transparency and the ease of use. Some specific things that the respondents liked about it was that it incorporated important character and other lessons into academic learning in a way that was appropriate for young individuals. The guide was detailed with a great overview. Objectives were clearly defined, and there were lots of links to different activities and strategies. Under ways that we could improve, some indicated none at this time. Others said, as with any resource guide or curriculum that we put forward, to always come back and review. So not to wait, several years before review, but especially with it being new, is having a review at the end of the school year to see, are there things that we needed to tweak, remove, add, change, those type of things. And then the other was just involving parents as much as we could in understanding what was in the guide and asking for their support as we move forward with the document. So my question this evening is to approve the character education resource guide for use in Orange County Public Schools.
So I'm comfortable. I mean, we've had this quite some time, so.
Question, sorry.
Yes.
So I know way back, I think when we discussed it in August, so have we, I know there was different talks of how we were going to implement it into the schools themselves. Elementary school, it was the morning meetings, and possibly, I know we had thrown some different ideas around for the high school. Is there something that we're considering that seems to be much better than others, or how are we implementing it in the middle and high school level?
That would actually be our next step, once
Okay.
it's approved, is to then meet with the principals, counselors, and other individuals at the middle and high schools to talk about what is the best way.
Okay.
What is most appropriate, because obviously at the high school they don't have morning meetings, but what are the best ways for us to make sure that the content is accessible for our students?
Gotcha. Thank you.
So is everyone comfortable with going ahead and approving this?
Yes, ma'am. I'll entertain a motion to approve the OC Charter Education Program and Essentials Resources Guide as presented.
Okay, can I have a second?
Second?
All in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Carries. Thank you, Ms. Ayler.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Don't leave, Susan.
Is my next?
Yes, your next one is the presentation to the board of our Special Education Advisory Committee. Ms. Ayler?
So each year, I come before the board to present the members of our Special Education Advisory Committee. This is a committee that has specific members, but also it is open to all parents in the school division. In particular, we make sure that all parents of students with disabilities have the information of when the meetings are and they are free to attend. We have 4 meetings per year, and typically we have a topic or a presentation at each of our meetings. And so we put that information out ahead of the meeting so that individuals who are interested can attend. There were several parents that are listed here that have agreed to serve on the committee, and we're excited to have them as part of our team.
Is everyone comfortable with going ahead and approving this?
No, I don't know what that is.
Like a motion?
Yes, please.
I make a motion, we approve the Special Education Advisory Committee members as presented.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Susan. At this time, I'll bring Mr. Honaker forward for the next 2 items, D and E, and we will start with letter D for supplemental appropriations. Gary?
Good afternoon. I'm here to ask for supplemental appropriation for both the operating and Head Start funds. And these are, the ones for the operating funds are budgets above what was, funds above what was budgeted. And the Head Start is a cost of living adjustment for them. So does anyone have any questions about these?
Nope. So can, well, it's got on here for November 27th, but I see no problem going ahead.
Get it down to the
Presenting
county
the
sooner.
county for the- yeah.
I'll make that motion that we go ahead and approve the Mr. Honaker's request for additional appropriations.
Okay, can we have a second?
Second?
All in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Now we'll talk about carryover unspent funding. Mr. Honaker.
Yes, here to present, first of all, the estimating of year-end expenses and revenue, and then ask for carryover for some of this. So the estimated revenue and expenses are $61,329,018. The county had a revised budget of funds given to us at $23,758,736. Of that, there was a remaining $1.4 million. Of that $1.4 million, we are asking for carryover of $638,107, with the bulk of that being open purchase orders that we did not receive the items by year end. So what I would be asking for at this time, if you go back to the other one, is a carryover of, get it on here, $638,107. Do you have any questions about this one?
Just a quick question about the purchase orders that are open and
Yes.
just explain to everybody what that means.
Well, these are purchase orders of things that were ordered but didn't come in. The bulk of them are, some of the major ones was, we had a cooling tower that we had to replace at Unionville, and what was remaining was a balance that the insurance did not cover, which was $157,000. We have a activity bus that was ordered again and still haven't received it. A fire panel at Prospect Heights, some library furniture, some painting, anyway, the total of all those added up to that amount.
Any questions?
Of the two numbers at the very bottom,
Yes.
it depends on what these definition of these titles mean. Are we saying that we're going to turn back 830,000 to the county? Is that what it's saying?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, just so I understand. I have no problems with it. I mean,
Okay.
it is what it is.
Yep. Are you guys comfortable with moving forward with this, or are you thinking that, Melissa, that you might have some questions later, or?
No, I looked through it. I mean, it's additional money that we didn't spend, so. I do have one question. So as far as the purchase orders, if that total amount is being refunded back to the county, basically, or is it,
We're asking the county to give it back to us
okay.
in FY '24
I
since we,
gotcha, I
yes.
gotcha, okay. So that will cover the open purchase orders?
That is
Okay,
correct,
all right,
yes.
Thank you.
Okay. If there are no questions, then I would entertain a motion to go ahead and move forward with this then.
I make a motion, we approve the estimated year-end expenses and revenues operating system for fiscal year 2022-2023.
Okay. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Okay, thank
I'm
you.
not- Do we need that as a carry forward request instead of?
We can do it separately if you'd like to separate out the
The two different ones?
The
Okay.
six-
Right, so that we can
638,
present that to the
107.
county as a carry forward amount that we will be requesting as supplemental, as another appropriation or reappropriation.
Okay, so Jim, would you like to make a motion to do that separately for the 638,107?
Yes, please.
So
We just need to ask that that be reappropriated to us in
Yes.
FY '24 budget.
The 638, I think is what he's saying.
okay. I don't know exactly what to say. I know the amount, but this is money that, well, let's just talk about it a little bit. This is money that we need because we haven't spent it yet, but it's obligated. Would that be,
That is correct, yes.
okay?
And then there's the items there where donations not expense, that's where we receive the money for a donation,
Right.
but we didn't spend it, so we were asking to reappropriate it back to us so we can spend it in FY '24.
Okay, so basically you're saying
We-
the remaining balance was $1 million and we're asking for 600,000 of it back.
That's correct, yes.
Okay. I make a motion, we ask for the carryover items in the amount of $638,000, $638,107 to be appropriated back to the school board to meet expenses that we have obligated.
Good, all right, thank you. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Thank you, motion carries.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. I believe next is Mr. Hill for surplus technology items. Greg?
Madam Chair, members of the board, bringing surplus items again. These are items, many of which are broken, some of which are out of warranty but still have possible value. We do get these recycled. They take our broken items, but in some cases, some of the older technology does have value, which we do recoup some from, so we can purchase newer items.
Everything but what I want.
Okay, So,
Big list.
It's an eclectic list.
yeah.
Yes.
Well, I make a motion, we accept the
Thank you.
surplus property disposal as presented.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Get that junk on the website so we get some money.
Okay. Madam Chair, members of the board, thank you all very much. And we're excited this evening. And if you remember back into October, we wanted to make sure we were doing a very good job explaining where we stand with respect to accreditation. And so what we have done is we are going to separate these presentations out so that they're a little bit more manageable and digestible for everybody. And so I'm not sure how we picked this order. I think it just said we're going to go elementary first. So we're here for elementary schools, and then in 2 weeks on the 27th, Dr. Honecker and our secondary principals will be here to give an update on secondary schools. And so at this time, I'm going to invite Judy to come forward for an opening. You'll have a chance to hear from each of our elementary school principals, which will also provide some insight into how our two K2 schools receive accreditation. Learn a little bit about that, as well as things that we're planning that we have in the works for continuous improvement. So Judy, I'll let you take it from there.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to share information regarding the accreditation status of our elementary schools. Just as a reminder, this year's accreditation is based on last year's data. Okay.
Judy has it.
Trying to make it move, but it's not going. Where's Greg?
Try clicking down at the bottom, just in the bottom area.
Right down here?
There you go.
I thought I could just click. There we go.
Should be able to now. Just come there.
Okay, they're all different. Okay, so first, just as a reminder, accreditation is based on two areas, student achievement and student attendance. And student achievement is measured by the students' results on the standards of learning assessments in reading, math, and science, and along with the growth measures in those as well. And attendance is measured by chronic absenteeism, which is defined as a student missing more than 10% of the school days. It's tricky. I'm happy to say that all of our elementary schools are fully accredited. I'm having just all kinds of issues with this, Greg.
I think if you hover over here at the bottom right, see,
Okay.
now your arrow's going that way, so
Okay,
now
great.
it'll work. Just click.
Okay, thank you very much. So these are our benchmarks for each of those areas. In reading, 75% of students overall, as well as 75% of students in each subgroup, are required to hit the pass rate. And in math, it's 70%, and science, 70%, and the number for chronic absenteeism, that's the benchmark, is less than 15%. For each of these areas, schools are assigned a level to reflect their achievement or chronic absenteeism rate. And we would like all of our schools, of course, to be rated as level 1 in each of these areas. So they can be rated either level 1, level 2, or level 3. Level 1 is achieving at the standard or sufficient improvement from a level 2 rating. Level 2 is near the standard or sufficient improvement from level 3, and level 3 is below the standard or can be performance at a level 2 for 4 or more years. So the ranges for each of those are listed at the bottom, and CA stands for chronic absenteeism. Each of our schools engages in a continuous improvement process. During this process, they take a look at their achievement data and absenteeism data. Along with that, they take a look at school processes, learning environment information that they have, and other data that they've gathered during their school year. Following that data analysis, they work on developing a continuous improvement plan with goals and strategies. Those action steps or strategies are put into place and then monitored throughout the year, and this process is a continuous cycle as they move through the process of the school year. At the center of all of this is rigorous and relevant instruction in the classroom, keeping in mind the 5 C's that have been established that we've talked about before: communication, collaboration, creativity, citizenship, and critical thinking. Thank you. So across the division, we've identified numerous strategies that we're putting in place as a division. You'll hear more about each of these with some specifics for each of the schools, because there are some unique situations in each school or goals within that school. So to address attendance, our schools have shared the practices that have worked successfully for them, and we're using those in other schools as well. There's, of course, frequent monitoring of attendance and increased communication with families, and the principals will speak to the specifics around that. To address achievement and to focus on improving the achievement of all of our students in subgroups and overall, we focused on training, assessment, student learning data, and instruction for this school year. Within the training, we've expanded our new teacher induction, as you know, with a longer time period at the beginning of the school year, 5 days for our new teachers. Also really focused on training our teachers as well as our principals in some of our new instructional methods, including those around structured literacy, which are related to the Virginia Literacy Act, as well as coming back to some of our basic instruction for math that really considers firming up students' conceptual understanding, and training for our lead teachers in each of our schools. We have lead teachers in each of the 4 core areas, and they are doing a really great job of leading professional development within the schools. For assessment, we've really focused on making sure that our assessments are tightly aligned to the standards that are required and then measured on our state assessments, and also that they meet the level of rigor that's required by the standards and the assessments. We do have a new assessment system that we're using this year, which is providing a lot clearer data and more readily usable data by both our teachers and our principals. And then in instruction, we've focused heavily on, our principals have worked with their teams to really take a look at lesson planning and making sure that our lessons do meet the requirements of the standards, along as looking at the data that's generated following lessons and throughout a unit. Our students are working on individualized learning plans that have been developed by their teachers and any reading specialists within the building. Those plans have been developed for both reading and math. We've also worked on developing walkthrough observations that are tools that our principals can use along with lead teachers or other leaders within the building, so that we can take a look at what other assistance can we provide to teachers, how can we support their instruction. And then, of course, we're all heavily involved in designing and beginning to implement tutoring according to the Virginia Department of Education's all-in tutoring plan for this year. So those are some of the key strategies that we're focusing on. The principals are going to talk about these in a lot more depth. Well, Laura, I've gone back too far now. Can you take me back to where we are? Well, I'm pretty sure I can do it. So we're going to start with we'll just scroll back, our principals. We're going to work across the division starting on the eastern end with Locust Grove Elementary and Locust Grove Primary. And so I'm going to invite Dr. Oliver Eggert and Mr. Finger to the podium to share some information about their schools. And then from there, we will work through Unionville and Lightfoot Elementary, and then to Orange Elementary and Gordon Barber Elementary. So just as a reminder, our K-2 schools accreditation for the academic areas is based on the performance of the 3-5 school, and their chronic absenteeism or attendance measure is based on their own chronic absenteeism rate. So, Dr. Oliver.
Good evening, everybody. So I will start out by talking about the school quality indicators. So as Dr. Wolfrey mentioned, ideally you want to see green across the board. So as you can see, we were able to hit level 1 criteria for English and math for all students. And then for science, we came in at a level 2. And our level 2 status came from a 3-year average. You can you can earn each level based on whether you're meeting the standard that year or on a 3-year average. And so for science, we made it on a 3-year average, but we definitely have some improvements to make in order to get to the green there on this year's state test. Our achievement gaps, for gap groups, we look at things like student performance for our African American students, our students with disabilities, and so forth. For English, we were able to maintain the level 1 for all gap groups. However, for math, we were at a level 2, and on the next slide, I'll be able to show you in more detail about why we hit a level 2 under mathematics. For chronic absenteeism, we were at a level 2, and so we're actively working to increase our attendance overall. And then Mr. Finger for your school.
And then you can see there that at Locust Grove Primary, we are at a level 3. And so I look forward to sharing more about what we're doing there to address that.
So this slide brings you into the achievement gap groups. So for English, you can see that in all areas for our gap groups, we were level 1 with the exception of students with disabilities. So we were at a level 2 for that group. And that is the same group that we have some areas of need for mathematics as well. We were in the red there. All other gap groups were level 1. So students with disabilities is definitely a group of students that we are working with, especially trying to meet their IEP goals and meeting their individual supports to help them be able to achieve to increase their performance on both reading and mathematics. And this slide just dives into the scores that our students have achieved over the last 3 years. Of course, skipping 2020 and 21 due to waivers for the pandemic. So you'll see scores from 2019 and then going up through 22 as well as 23. And again, even just looking at these graphs, you can see that science is an academic area of need at Locust Grove Elementary overall. And part of this is helping our students be able to not only just recall the curriculum that they're learning and the content, but being able to really apply that learning. And that's something that's different about the assessments. And so we just have to help our students bridge that gap. They have some of that content knowledge, but can we apply it and make inferences in scientific investigations and so forth. Chronic absenteeism, so we were able to reduce chronic absenteeism by 1% at Locust Grove Elementary School. Our goal this year is to get that excuse me, below 15%. And when we get onto the next slide, I'll dive into how we are addressing that. But we are starting to get that reduction, and we are trending at about a 12% chronic absenteeism so far this year for the first few months of school.
And then you could see a similar trend at Locust Grove Primary School. And as Dr. Oliver and Eckert and I work together, we realize and recognize that we work with many of the same families. And so you can see that our chronic absenteeism is higher, and that is why we are in level red. But I look forward to sharing some updated information about the direction that we're headed this year.
So these are the strategies that are included in our school improvement plan in order to address some of the areas of concern, as well as maintaining and even strengthening some of our areas where we are performing well. So in the area of chronic absenteeism, we are doing recognitions monthly for students in our school, recognizing perfect attendance. And each month this school year so far, we've had nearly 250 students with perfect attendance each month. So we are trending in a very positive direction. The students at my school earn certificates as well as bracelets each month that they have perfect attendance, and they're really excited about showing those bracelets off. We make daily personal phone calls if we have any students that are unverified that day. So the majority of those calls are coming from my school registrar as well as the school nurse and counselors. So making those personal connections rather than relying on the automated phone calls has made a very significant difference in identifying where students are when they're not in the building and getting them back to school when they are absent. We also meet in what we call SAT teams or student assistance teams meetings, as well as attendance plans meetings to address concerns with absenteeism. So making sure that we are inviting parents in. We're trying to identify those obstacles that may be keeping a family from getting their student to school. Being supportive, trying to problem solve and get the students into school. And then increasing family engagement activities is another big one, trying to have activities available that the students want to be involved in and bringing in the families for different activities and events. For example, we just had a very successful Veterans Day assembly this past Friday, and we had lots of families coming in to participate in that. And so just doing the kinds of things that help students and families feel like they belong and want to be in school every day. So those are some of the things that we're doing this year, and some of my colleagues I know are doing as well, and they are proving to be successful. Under instruction, one of the main things that we're doing across all subject areas is something called core thinking routines. This is a toolbox of strategies that comes from Harvard University's Project Zero. It helps make student thinking more visible to teachers and allows students to really clarify their thinking as they're having access to the curriculum. It is something that we're embedding in all of our lesson plans for all subjects to help further engage students' thinking rather than just mimicking or recalling with the content, but getting them really thinking and utilizing what they're learning. So this is one of the main areas for all subjects, but especially in science, that we really want to dive into and that my teachers have been doing for the past 2 months. We are embedding PD in all of our faculty meetings. We have especially been focusing on structured literacy and helping support our teachers' understanding of what science of reading is and structured literacy and being able to deliver that content in the classrooms for our students. We are doing peer observations and reflecting, really trying to take advantage of the fact that we have very strong veteran teachers in the school, and we want everyone to have opportunities to be able to observe their fellow teachers. It's so easy to be trapped in the silo of your own classroom, but you learn best from the modeling of others. And so giving our teachers chances to get into those classrooms and be able to learn from one another and reflect on those observations is one of the strategies that we're doing this year as well. As Dr. Wolfrey mentioned, monitoring student performance data using Performance Matters, as well as some of the other tools that we have, such as iExcel, to really manage our students' performance, identify where some weak areas may be, and provide any remediation or reteaching strategies needed to help support their growth. We are utilizing the lesson plan evaluation tool that came from the VDOE to help ensure that our teachers are really thoroughly planning out their lessons and meeting all the different needs that are in the classroom. We are doing individual reading plans for grades 3 through 5 for all of our students who are on what we consider a Tier 3, the highest level of need in improving their reading skills. Those individual reading plans excuse me, are being developed and shared with parents and monitored with goals and progress monitoring through our reading specialists as well as our special education teachers. All the students that see those 2 types of specialists are considered Tier 3 students. And then we're also doing math plans for our grade 5 students through the VDOE's Bridging the Gap program. So we have individualized math plans for all of our 5th grade students who had failed the 4th grade math SOL the year prior. So for us, that's approximately 50 students that also have math plans. Utilizing distributed leadership, so lead teachers is a newer role that we have throughout our school division, and so really allowing lead teachers to help support the growth of all of our teachers. So we have lead teachers by content at the elementary schools, and so those teachers are the ones that are supporting PLCs, the professional learning communities, and helping our teachers better learn the curriculum and strategies to deliver the instruction for each content area. We're utilizing the science observation classroom tool, which was new through the VDOE, and that's allowing us to give specific feedback on walkthroughs to teachers to really, again, help increase that use of knowledge and hands-on experiential learning in the classroom. And then finally, really making sure that we're doing hands-on experiential learning, utilizing manipulatives, having students have access to experiments in science class and so forth to really help them make connections with what they're learning. So these are just some of the examples of things that we're focusing on at Locust Grove Elementary School.
And much of what I'll share with you has been shared here, and you'll see some common themes, not just in my presentation, but in some of the other schools as well. So this is a brief summary representing the decisions and the work that's been done by not just myself, but the school improvement team at Locust Grove Primary School. And just to give you a little bit more context about what that looks like, that's not just the principal. That's 12 members of our school improvement team representing kindergarten through 2nd grade. It represents content areas, school counselors, special education, and administration. So when we come together, we're looking at developing a plan from multiple lenses across the school setting. And we'll highlight 2 areas as well, that attendance piece. So our monthly recognitions of school attendance, I have brag tags there. So much like Locust Grove Elementary, we are celebrating regular school attendance, and we're partnering with our PTA. So it's a community partnership. It's a connection between our school, our community, our teachers, and our students to celebrate and recognize regular school attendance. That daily personal phone call piece, that's also something that we've recognized that has made a big difference in families recognizing the importance of making that school connection between their student, the content that's being taught, and not just what they're being taught that day, but the long-term ramifications of that over the course of years, months, a decade, and what that could mean for their future. I'm pleased to share with you that the efforts of our school and attendance team, we currently stand between 11 and 12%. So that's a 15-point reduction from where we were at the end of last year. And so we are well on track to meet our goal of under 15% chronic absent. We have an education and information campaign. It's important that we educate our school community of the cumulative adverse effects of chronic absenteeism over the course of multiple years. That regular and disciplined school attendance at the primary grade leads to regular and disciplined habits that provide the foundation for students to build the stick-it-to-itness, that grit and determination that builds character to overcome challenges when natural ability and talents may not always be enough. And for student achievement, we are focusing on continual work on the alignment of lesson plans, instructional practices, through embedded professional development as well. Some examples of this, our teachers are working hard on developing practices around math workshop framework, and we continue to pursue our practices in structured literacy in response to the Virginia Literacy Act. Something that I'm really proud of and something that I really like to highlight here is that distributed leadership piece with our lead teachers. We've been provided with an opportunity to utilize the talents and the leadership that we have with our teachers to drive school-wide instructional practices and improvement. And that goes beyond just our lead teachers. That's the connection we make with our grade level leads, our PBIS coaches, our special education case managers. And it's important that we tap into these talents, as Dr. Oliver Eckert had shared, because we have this knowledge and this foundation, a teacher workforce to lead positive change in our schools. And then performance matters data informs our discussions and our practices as attendance teams, professional learning community meetings, professional development subgroup data, as special education teams and ELS teams. So, thank you for the opportunity to share this information today. And we chat if you have any questions.
Eileen, Lee, thank you very much. We will move forward with our friends from Unionville and Lightfoot. So Ms. Grubb and Mr. Kubik. Can you move that forward one, Laura? In the interim, I'll just remind the board and the folks in here a couple of things that Eileen and Lee mentioned. First, with the math and reading plans, in particular aligned with the Bridging the Gap, which is the pilot program through the state that we got ourselves. We made sure that we were involved in. And so kudos to making sure that we were ahead of the game, and those plans are definitely making a difference. And then they talked a lot about the lead teachers, and I'd like to just reiterate, thanking again the board for the support in bringing those positions forward and elevating those positions in this year's budget, so that we can have a lot more hands helping to lead instruction and move instruction forward. So, Mary Lee, I'll turn it over to you.
Good evening. As you can see with the school quality indicators and the academic achievement for English and math overall, we are a level 1, and science, we are a level 2. For our achievement gaps, we are a level 1 in English, a level 2 in English and a level 1 in math. And then with our chronic absenteeism, we are, for this accreditation year, a level 2. With our achievement gaps, you can see we're a level 3 still this year with students with disabilities. With our students who are Black, we have moved from a level 3 to a level 2, which we're very excited about what we've been doing to have those accomplishments. And then in math this year, we are a level 2 for our students who are Black. And everybody else is a level 1. What's really exciting is if you look at the 2019 pre-pandemic data, we have had an increase in our overall English from a 74 to an 81 despite the pandemic, which is really exciting. In math, we've had a slight decrease from 82 to 76, and science, just like the previous team was talking about, that is an area we really have to focus on with this year with being at a 51%. With our chronic absenteeism, you can see we were at 35.1%, and this current year we reduced that to 18%. And what's more exciting, I'll share some of the strategies that we started last year and this year, but currently right now we are at just a little over 7% for chronic absenteeism, and we're very excited about that.
I'll mention one more thing here briefly that was a change for this accreditation year. Another factor of ways schools can make accreditation is what's called an R10 factor, which is in the cases of achievement, it would be to reduce a failure rate or thereby increase a pass rate by 10% on a particular test. And in the case of chronic absenteeism, it would be to reduce your number of students by 10%. Coming out of the pandemic, the Virginia State Board of Education decided this year to do a hard reset on attendance data and did not utilize the R10 factor. So it was a straight calculation. And so when you look at Lightfoot with 17.99%
That's correct.
reduction. And when you see Unionville, I think you were over 23% reduction. Both of these buildings would have been green in that category on any other year up to instead of this year. So I just want to make sure that change, which we all definitely understand why it was made, to get a hard reset to get where we stand post-COVID, post-pandemic in attendance. But I think those efforts are worth acknowledgement when you're talking double-digit reductions in chronic absenteeism. And like you said, now we're sitting at an average of about 7% at Lightfoot, which is a tremendous improvement. So hats off to you all. Go ahead, Amy.
Thank you, Laura. So just a reminder from what Dr. Wolfrey had said earlier, Unionville's accreditation is based off of the SOL scores from Lightfoot, but then the absentee rates from Unionville. So as you can see there, like Dr. Hornick mentioned, we significantly reduced our chronic absentee rate last school year. My goal this school year is to continue to reduce that. If we reduce that by about another 8.5%, we'll be less than 15% of our students chronically absent. We're not quite as low as Lightfoot is right now. I'm still hovering in the range between about 13 and 15% of our students. And I'll get to talk a little bit later about what we're doing specifically at Unionville for attendance.
And overall, as in a division, just for the board's edification, we improved by decreasing our overall rate across all schools. I think it's 26.7% over the past 2 years as far as chronic absenteeism on an overall count.
So a few items that we've been working on, first and foremost, is the attendance piece, like Mr. Finger spoke to, and the importance of making sure kids are at school every day so that they can learn. And a big piece of that for us is through our family engagement. We go above and beyond our attendance policy with the phone calls and setting up meetings early with our families. And this year, even if they are so many parent excused, we know we have students with a history of chronic absenteeism, then we are meeting with them early. We acknowledge our students as well as our families that are improving attendance through our positive behavior intervention supports, our PBIS program. That includes positive notes home to the parents and guardians, and phone calls home to them as well to thank them for supporting us and their child coming to school. We also make sure that we are doing student awards for attendance, and if you walk into Lightfoot, you'll see the first thing when you come in, or anybody who comes into our vestibule, you'll see our current attendance statistics right when you walk in. We put that up on the weekly announcements also, where students can classrooms earn an award that week. They get the Crystal Timberwolf that comes to their classroom, and they also, we do the best attendance. We announce in announcements for the week, as well as each quarter. We also recognize perfect attendance for our students, but we also go each quarter and go above and beyond with that, because there are students that told us last year at this time that they were here every day, all day, and there were other students going home that got perfect attendance awards. So we started giving out perfect attendance plus awards for the students who were, because that's important to their overall education, that they are here through the end of the day. We also target some weeks like Halloween. We know the day after Halloween is the #1 missed day in American schools. So last week we did an award for the classroom with perfect attendance last week, as well as students with perfect attendance. We refocused our how we engage our families, just refocused it a little bit with our back to school night, our ELL night, our reading night and math night, into teaching our families how to help their children study and how to help them learn, specifically through academic games, which has been supported through our title funds. In addition, we have created the reading plans and the math plans for individual students and meeting with students and families early on how we can partner together with and giving them support such as tutoring. If we can get them in for tutoring 4 days a week, we can get them there for the attendance.
So a couple of things that Marilee has spoken here of importance, and I'd just like to give the board credit. First, you're talking about the ability to get with parents early. And in many of our elementary schools, with your support on the calendar last year and not waiting until the end of the first quarter to do parent conferences and doing them, I believe it's about 29 or 30 school days in, we were able to meet with parents and really utilize that time at this level as well as at the middle school level, when you hear about that in 2 weeks, to review these reading and math plans with our parents. So that was really important, and that was a calendar change and a little bit of a mindset shift. It actually came from our calendar committee asking for that particular change. And you're also hearing a lot about family engagement, and I'll just remind the board, after last year when at the VAST conference, and I learned about not only bridging the gap, but also the Virginia Family Engagement Cohort that was going to meet, I believe it started in January. Is that correct? And went through pretty much the entire spring semester last year, was really centered on helping our participants, just like you said, kind of rethink and reframe what parent engagement is. And one of the most apropos things that Steve Constantino said at the VAST conference was you can't, sending out a report card's not engagement. The event has already happened. You've missed your window to make an impact. So you can't engage with somebody once the engagement period is done. After the fact, it's informing, it's not engaging. And so these early efforts and the extra efforts with personal phone calls, reading and math plans, a change in the calendar, that was all done under that same umbrella of trying to make a positive difference. And so I think kudos to this board and to each member, and thank you all for your support and helping us move that needle forward.
In reading, we focused our core instruction supporting changes with the Virginia Literacy Act, including using grade level text for all students, and that includes our core instruction for our students with special needs. We've worked on embedding cross-curricular content, and vocab is a big focus right now, targeting word knowledge and world knowledge, which is background knowledge, determining text structure, and using graphic organizers. And then for our students in need of intervention, since that is one of our areas that's still a level 3, is focusing on phonics, even at the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade where they do have gaps, either through programs such as Lexia, which is not just the online program, we use that, but we have skill builders, which we do where they cut things out and move things around, drag and drop, as well as either individual lessons or group lessons with a teacher. But then our multisensory education, targeting our students with special needs, specifically this year, as well as our students who are Black. With math, we're focusing specifically on the concrete, representational, and abstract model. So we're teaching our students how to use physical and concrete aids to build understanding of abstract ideas. We're continuing to build on math workshop model, which we implemented last year. We're in year 2, to engage our students on rich tasks, problem solving, and small group instruction. And then specifically for our students in intervention, we use the box of facts, which allows us to make sure students demonstrate that essential thinking knowledge and strategies for number facts, and as well as intervention using IXL, which is our online math program. For science, which a lot of that is embedding the vocabulary and content in the other areas, and then in math also, specifically with measurement. But we've also been working with teachers on the state science classroom observation tool to make sure that students are indeed scientists, and we actually got our student scientists and teachers, they have goggles that come in our kits, but we got them like special lab coats, which they love, and that they're working with hands-on real-world connections and focusing on teachers starting each science unit with a problem or a question and having students do science through the use of the materials and resources which are provided by the district. A big piece of this, and I'm very proud, and I heard Mr. Finger say the same thing on his people and building that capacity, the embedding the professional learning is very important to our staff. Especially at the elementary level, in doing so in a timely and relevant manner based on teacher needs and needs that we identify through the walkthroughs that we do with the central office staff also, formal observations, as well as teacher surveys that we have them fill out at the end of each session that we do. We are working on building that teacher capacity through the teacher leadership, which through that lead teacher that we're using this year, excuse me, our TTRT, our reading specialists, our SPED teachers, our gifted teachers, our ELL, as well as areas that other teachers who don't fall into those categories, that's a strength of theirs. But continuing to work, we also are continuing to work with our coordinators specifically on the needs of our new staff and continuing to look at our data, specifically our students with special needs and our students who are Black. And finally with that, creating formative assessments to know immediately what students need and how to change instruction.
All right, so first I would like to talk about the chronic absenteeism. And I'm going to focus on 3 different strategies that we're using at Unionville. Communication, the recognitions and incentives, and family engagement. Very similar to things that you've already heard from the others. So for the communication, we really work to increase our communication with families, not only about the attendance policies and the procedures, but also just regarding the positive impacts of what regular school attendance can do for their students. Specifically at the primary level, like Mr. Finger had said, just setting those routines that will carry them through their lifelong learning. And similar to what others had said, we also engage in the student assistance team meetings and the attendance meetings to help families problem solve any attendance concerns that we have within the building level. In regard to the recognitions and incentives, we also recognize students for perfect attendance at the 9 weeks. In my weekly newsletter that goes home, I highlight the average attendance rates for each grade level, and I try to make it into like a little competition for them so that the students and the parents buy into that. And then classrooms that receive perfect attendance, they're provided with a reward the following Monday. And we chose Mondays because that's the day that we have the lowest attendance in our building. So try to get them there on Mondays to receive their rewards for that. The last one is the family engagement opportunities. So we're used to doing school-wide events for our whole school, similar to STEM night, math night, literacy night. We're trying to take a different spin on, in addition to those things, we're inviting very specific small groups of parents and children to come into school. For example, last Thursday, we had a literacy event for all of our students who receive services from the reading specialists. So they came in, I spoke for a few minutes about attendance, then they spent a lot of time with the reading specialist learning games to promote the early literacy skills. We provided them with take-home materials where they were able to take the materials home, play games with kiddos. So we are trying to do more of those events. We have another one between the 2 of our schools with our ELL teacher this Thursday. It will be at Lightfoot, but it's all of the ELL families that will be attending. And similarly, she's going to teach them some games to help them with their language skills. And then moving on to the enhanced instructional strategies. Similar to what Mrs. Grubb did, I would like to focus just briefly one for each of those major content areas. So for mathematics, similarly to what you've heard already, we are focusing on the math workshop for student engagement and conceptual understanding of math for our children. By the end of January, all of my teachers will have been trained by the math coordinator in math workshop, and that's something that through our professional learning communities and through our staff meetings, the professional development, that we're implementing right away. So they're practicing as they're learning with their students. Structured literacy has been a big focus at Unionville since October of last school year. Currently, I have a little more than half of my teachers all trained in the Institute for Multisensory Education. With the teachers that are not formally trained, they're still receiving professional development through reading specialists, through the humanities coordinator, myself, and then their peers who are trained. So a lot of our weekly literacy meetings and staff meetings, we're talking all about that structured literacy approach and how to just get that understanding to the teachers and then change our practices in the classroom. It's very exciting to see the changes and the difference. For the science, same as you've heard before, we're doing that science classroom observation tool. It's that new walkthrough tool that was developed by VDOE, and it really focuses on the hands-on experiential learning in the science classroom. And to tie along with the walkthroughs, we also are utilizing walkthrough forms for the literacy and the math. And I do regularly scheduled tandem walkthroughs with all of the level coordinators. And they come through and we do that together, and it's very supportive in nature so that the teachers are provided with immediate feedback on positives that are happening in the classrooms. And it also helps me gauge where we need to focus next. So that leads our next professional development sessions for the math and the literacy. The teachers, they also are doing the peer observations of each other and learning from each other in all of those content areas, math, literacy, and science, and then having discussions with each other. You know, how can I change this in my classroom? How can I learn from you? What can we do with each other? And also through those professional learning communities where we're constantly looking at student data and disaggregating the student data and deciding what interventions students might need, making sure all of those interventions are really student specific and they're just tailored to what each individual child might need. I think that might be all I had in my notes. So as you can see, there's numerous things going on at Unionville. That was just to highlight a few that just help keep the main thing and keep the students in the center of our world.
Ms. Jakubik and I just had one thing that we wanted to say together, because we have really been able last year and then through the summer and this year to really work diligently together to connect the needs of the two schools for improvement, from lesson plans to family engagement through walkthroughs and data meetings. Our work together is significant for continued improvement. We're very thankful for the continued support of Dr. Wolfrey and her team with the walkthroughs and making that possible, as well as needs that we have, but as well as to Dr. Hornick and to the board to be able to have, especially our intervention pieces that we have in place right now in literacy. So we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Very much appreciated. We will transition to Orange, and then we'll have Gordon Barber. So Ms. McGee is here. Sherry, I'll turn it over to you.
Good evening, everyone. So I will also start with the school quality indicators. As you'll see, we are green in English and mathematics across the board in academic achievement and achievement gaps. But we also have some work to do in science. We're currently at a level 2 with a 3-year average. Also, chronic absenteeism has been an issue for us, and we are currently at a level 2 there as well. So this is the achievement gaps group, and we are all green with a 3-year average. And we're really proud of all green. I don't like the yellows at all. So I like the all greens, but there's still work to be done in every gap group. And just because we're green, it doesn't mean we're complacent. And so we're still looking at all the data and making sure that we're not missing anyone because it's green. That's easy to do, but we're not going to do that. So on the next one is academic achievement, and you'll see why we're not being complacent. In English, we've gone down some. In math, we've gone down some. In science, we went up 3 points, which we were happy about, but still not happy about a 63. You can see we're staying above the line for English, above the line for math, but still below for science. So we're putting a lot of effort into all areas. And honestly, during the pandemic, we were so focused on English and math because we were so worried about them, and I think we backed off of science a little bit. And with the updated standards and all the new tools we're putting in place, I feel confident that we'll all get our science scores back up. Now that we have the kids back in school full time and we're getting attendance rates up, I think the science will rise as well. So we cut our absenteeism quite a bit from 31.8 to 18.1, which is about 13.7%. But I like to say it the other way. We went from 68.2% of our kids not being to 81.9. So that's a huge difference, 68% to almost 82% of your students not being chronically absent. As the others have said, that's a huge issue, and we need them at school to teach them. So for our continuous school improvement plan strategies, for chronic absenteeism, we've kind of had a lot of fun with the incentives and recognitions, and some people get wet, but I try not to. One of the big things has been the increased communication with the families about attendance. Somehow through the pandemic, people started thinking that school was optional, or they could decide when to send their students. And so just reminding people that it is a law in Virginia, and that your kids can't learn if they're not here, and that we don't have a virtual option anymore, and all of those things that we just all needed to be reminded to get us back in school together for that face-to-face learning. Incentives and recognitions for students, if they like competitions, others have said that, if you can see the competition, but we started doing 9 weeks incentives, and they kind of run, and then we do like a dodgeball game. We do 3 or less days because it's a long period of time, but we do little pieces in between. So we started this random day, and I shouldn't say we, I should say Mr. Johnson decided that if you do a day where you just have a surprise, so that the kids that are there get the surprise, and then they tell the kids that weren't there you missed the surprise, just trying to get them to come. And we too picked the day that we had the first time we picked the day we have the most students at school, which is on Wednesday, and Mr. Johnson got wet. And this next time is actually this Wednesday for our Thanksgiving dinner. We're going to, this is a secret, we're going to fully decorate the whole cafeteria, and all the staff is going to wear black and white, and it's going to be like a big deal for the kids.
See, Brandy, this is why you need assistant principals. And they're the ones who go into the dunk tank and take the pie in the face.
He says I'm going to be a human Sunday next.
That's the rite of passage to the next level.
He said since I got out of the water, next time I get to be a human Sunday. I told him I'd do anything but wear a Dallas Cowboy jersey. So increased extracurricular opportunities is something we've also focused on. We find that kids that are safety patrols, that are in Girls on the Run, that are on Girls at Code, who now we started an SCA, so we have a lot more kids involved, and we got our robotics team going back. They come to school when they have something like that. So the ones who are hesitant to come, or maybe school is hard, they get involved in something else extracurricular that gets them there every day. And if we can get them there every day, we can help them academically too. So we keep trying to increase those opportunities for students during the school day. For instruction, we've been focusing on our Tier 1 instructional strategies for all students, for math, for reading, for science, making sure that the learning is visible. We've been working on this for years, making sure the kids know what they're learning, making sure they know what it looks like, making sure we're giving them good feedback, good corrective feedback. Am I doing it right? Am I not doing it right? And then making sure we're giving them lots of opportunities to respond. Less teacher talk, more kids doing, more kids talking. And this year, we're focusing on scaffolding of content and skills. As the Literacy Act has passed, and we've gotten more into that, we're trying to do more on grade level reading with the students. There are students who aren't reading on grade level. So instead of giving them lower level text, we're scaffolding within the grade level. So we're working more and more on using that scaffolding effectively in the classrooms. And then, as the others have discussed, the enhanced lesson planning using the state guide to make sure that our lesson plans are strong and meeting the needs of all students. And then lastly, the professional development for staff, really focusing on the structured literacy piece, on math workshop. And why is math workshop important? It's because you can get the idea to everyone, you can focus on individual groups that are struggling, you can enrich kids that need that. It really allows you to get to all groups of students. And then the increased in-house presenters, which is also those lead teachers. They're presenting to their peers, and peer-to-peer, the staff just accept that better. And they like it, someone who's in the trenches with them, doing it with them, and it just seems to be better overall results when we do peer-to-peer. So thank you again for the lead teachers. They are excellent, and it's been a great addition. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry.
Thank you.
And last but certainly not least, Brandy.
Hi.
Shoemake is here to talk about Gordon Barber. Ms.
Yes.
Shoemake.
Good evening. Thank you. We'll start with our school quality indicators. So we do see a lot of green there, but the red is standing out to me. In academic achievement, we have English, math, and science that we are at a level 1 in all 3 areas. For our achievement gaps, we do, if you'll go back just one.
Sorry.
Yeah. You can speed me through, that's okay. In our achievement gaps, we do have level 1 for English and math. There is a section on the next slide that we'll talk about a little bit with one of our achievement gaps specifically that we do need to focus on. So while we do have green there, we do have some areas that we need to focus on. Student engagement and outcomes, as you've seen with the other members of our team, chronic absenteeism is a concern. It is something that we are addressing, and that the leadership team at Gordon Barber, PBIS team, we're spending a tremendous amount of time on just to focus on what we can do to increase that student engagement and encourage our students to want to be at school. On the next slide, the achievement gaps that we were discussing earlier, we are looking pretty good in many of our achievement gaps, but again, our students with disabilities is an area that we need to place additional focus on, especially in English. 3-year average, when we look across that, we are trending in the right direction for English. So we've had really good results with that in the past, and we'd like to continue to strengthen that. The Virginia Literacy Act obviously is a focus at our school as well, but with a strong basis for us to build on. I believe we can continue with the growth that you see there. We're also trending in the right direction for math, which is really good news. Science, you can see that we are trending in the opposite direction. And so while we do have results that are above the minimum level of achievement, it is an area of focus for us, especially if we are looking at a 3-year average. You'll notice that our first year that is up there will soon drop off, and so that means we have to pay attention to what the next years will bring and make sure that focus on science instruction and inquiry-based learning continues to be strong, and we strengthen that in order to kind of flip that and make it go in the opposite direction. So for my school improvement strategies, chronic absenteeism, I jumped ahead. For chronic absenteeism, we did improve that from 31.9% to 25.6%. That is an improvement, but we are focusing on the goal of less than 15% this year. We are trending in that direction. Most recently, Gordon Barber was reported at 14%, so we are proud to see that number showing up. We started out the school year hovering between 13 and 14, so we are excited about that change, and we hope that we can continue to maintain that through several strategies that I'll discuss in a few minutes. For our school improvement strategies, Much of this work comes from meeting with my school improvement team, lead teachers, specialists within our building to develop a plan to address not only the chronic absenteeism, but also student achievement and teacher development. We are having a little fun with some of our chronic absenteeism incentives. Coming from the other end of the county to Gordon Barber this year, I was able to bring with me some of the ideas that we used down there. So the Student Ambassador Program, we have off the ground and running. So our 5th graders are now part of our Student Ambassador Program. Basically, students had to apply through an application process, and they were selected for many roles within our building. We do believe that student belonging will make them want to come to school and will increase attendance. For some students who we felt like needed that additional role, they may have gotten a little nudge to apply for that program and some support in that process as well. But we now have 5th grade students you can see in the hallways serving as hallway monitors, serving as greeters at the beginning of our day, serving as classroom buddies because our kindergarten classes can't have enough hands. So the 5th graders are really enjoying that. And then we also have some who are now on our announcement crew. And some of them like the spotlight and some of them like to stand behind the camera. But they're really enjoying that. And I am as well because I'm no longer running those announcements solo. So I'm happy to share some of the spotlight with my friends beside me on the announcements. We've also, along with just the Student Ambassador Program, we've increased some student programming. So we do have a coding club and a robotics club that is coming off the ground now. So students are really excited about that. In addition to that, we also have taken a step further. We have Bulldogs of the Month. The students are used to being recognized that way, but we are allowing the Bulldogs of the Month some other jobs throughout the month, so it doesn't just focus on that one achievement and then it's kind of a one and done. They have multiple roles throughout the month. And one of those is that they get to say the Pledge of Allegiance on the announcements. And so we've had a lot of fun with that. It was nice. I walked into the library one morning to one of my younger 2nd grade students saluting and practicing and warming up for his moment on the announcement. So again, when you see the kids excited about what's happening in the building, you see the kids feeling like they have a part of what's going on in the building, they want to come to school. And they feel seen and heard. And so that's a big part of our ways of addressing the chronic absenteeism. But we also are using somewhat of an information and communication campaign. So there are weekly Bulldog bulletins that go out to families on Sunday evenings. And in those Bulldog bulletins, I'm including information from the VDOE training modules just to educate families on the importance of school attendance. There's also a tip sheet from Attendance Matters that's found on the VDOE website, and we can use that as well to educate families on what they can do to prepare for school the next day and just help with those obstacles that they may be dealing with at home to be able to help them make that transition a little smoother the next day for attendance. So that is happening as well. We're also publicizing our attendance rates. So they know exactly where we were, what our goal is, and where we need to be. And that also involves letting them know which grade levels are making the most progress. So that leads to the incentives and recognition. We are doing a little grade level competition. We actually started this week. Our 3rd and 4th grades were the winners this past week with the best attendance rates, and we'll continue to do that. They may earn a little bit of extra recess for that, and it's amazing what kids will do for 5 extra minutes. So that's really positive, and that was also from the work of my school improvement team and us kind of collaborating together. In addition to that, we've also talked about and are going to implement this 9 weeks brag tags, as you've heard from some of the others. So students will earn perfect attendance certificates and brag tags for their attendance accomplishments. Personalized phone calls are also something that we started, as you've heard from the others as well. My school counselor is phenomenal, my registrar. Between the 3 of us, we kind of form our own little attendance team at Gordon Barber because our numbers are small, but I'll say small and mighty. So we get together every 2 weeks and look at our attendance data, focus on which students we need to really make sure those personalized phone calls are going to, and just making sure those families know that we do notice when they're not here and we do miss them, and also to identify obstacles that we might need to do any kind of support or help to the families. The attendance meetings we talked about, I heard one of the other schools talk about early attendance meetings. We're doing that as well with families, but approaching it a little differently. So this kind of goes with the family engagement piece. It's not come in and have this attendance meeting because you're in trouble, because you're not sending your kid to school. It's what are your barriers, what are your obstacles, and how can we help you with addressing those to make sure that that you know we want to partner with you, and we're not here to criticize you for whatever may be going on in your family situation. For student achievement and teacher development, much like you've heard from the other team members, we're doing walkthroughs with division leads. They've come, both reading and math have come through the building alongside myself to be able to walk through with teachers and view math and reading lessons. Really, the purpose of this is to strengthen that tier one, that core instruction, and just to make sure that we're consistent and strong across the basis with teacher clarity, with student feedback, and with learning intentions. And so we do that and then provide the feedback to teachers. That's also allowing me an opportunity, especially as a new administrator, to know where the personalized professional development needs to take place, so I can identify my strong teachers, identify my teachers who can learn from one another, and really find the points that we need to focus on to be able to develop one another. We have changed our faculty meeting format. So my faculty does not listen to me at the beginning or throughout all of our faculty meetings. Instead, I've developed a communication system where I am sending out information daily to my teachers through a similar format of like a morning message. And so that is alleviating the time at our faculty meetings to be able to focus solely on professional development. And so we've had our reading specialist, our lead teachers, our TTRT has done faculty meetings and professional development at those faculty meetings for grade level specific material and content. Also, science-based inquiry learning. This is something that we have to pay attention to because we do see that trend in our scores, and so we are doing school-wide professional development on the science-based inquiry learning as well as math workshop. The reciprocal peer observations are something that is part of my plan this year. I believe that we have a lot of strong teachers within our building who are strong in different areas. And so I know as a classroom teacher, it was important for me to be able to learn from one another and to be able to step outside of my classroom and go see what's happening in someone else's classroom, who's teaching it, the content, the material, the way that I'm supposed to be teaching it, and be able to learn from one another. And so we have created a peer PD log. And so each teacher will be able to have the opportunity to use the walkthrough forms that they're seeing the division leads come through and myself come through and utilize, and then they're getting to do that and use that with their peers, so they not only know what's expected of them, but they also know how to guide their conversations with one another and just increase their effectiveness within the classroom. We're using the VDOE Science Classroom Observation Tool as well. So a lot of PD centered in there, but focused on different areas within the instruction. We have a continued focus on data because all the PD is important, but we do have to go back and look at the data. So we do biweekly network meetings and this is where we really focus on the performance of those students with disabilities, because that is the one area that did reflect in our school achievement that we need to pay more attention to. And so that really gives us the opportunity to focus on students' individual needs, their supports, their individual education plans. Is there something that we need to add or to change? Is there additional support that they might need? And really allow us to make a decision, too, with the next step on student assistance team meetings. And so you've heard the acronym SAT team meetings, so we're doing that at Gordon Barber as well. And a lot of that is coming out of what we see from the data in the biweekly network meetings. So we'll know who to identify and who we need to then come in and bring a more specific work team together to support our families. So a lot of work to be done at Gordon Barber. We're excited about our progress, and I was excited to step in and see the scores that they were able to attain from the previous year and be able to continue to build on that. Thank you.
Brandy. Judy, go ahead and bring us home.
Well, first I just want to say thank you to all the principals for coming tonight and sharing those components of their school improvement plans. And before we do a wrap-up of the continuous improvement efforts, just would like to spend a little bit of time to highlight some of the achievements that our schools were able to make last year under the leadership of these very dedicated administrators and the strong and hardworking teams within their buildings. So earlier you saw specifically to each school the attendance, the chronic absenteeism rates, but this visual just gives you a chance to see that overall across all the elementary schools, the kinds of gains that were made in reducing chronic absenteeism last year. And I'm confident that with their efforts this year, we're going to see that to continue to drop and meet that benchmark. Under accreditation, gains, and achievement, you can see that just overall in the area of English, the pass rates at Gordon Barber Elementary, you can see some nice gains there. You can see with the comic graph that the higher rate to the right is where they've landed this past year. And then for Gordon Barber in math from 90 to 92. So you can see some gains in each of those schools. Within the gap groups, you can see these gains at Gordon Barber within all of those subgroups of students. Again, the higher number that you see is where they're landing right now. So that's the pass rate to the right for each of those subgroups. And then at Lightfoot Elementary, again, great improvements in a number of gap groups in both English at the top graph and math at the bottom. And then at Locust Grove Elementary, again, some more gains with English learners and then white students in math. So just to take a few minutes just to, then finally with Orange Elementary, I believe this is our last one, some more nice gains with gap groups in both English and math. So again, that was just an opportunity just to highlight some of their hard work. In thinking about the continuous improvement efforts at the school, I think there's one resounding theme, and that is one of teamwork. We really see dedicated leaders coming alongside their teachers and partnering with families, because we know that it takes all of us to support our students and make sure that every student is able to reach those benchmarks that are set by the state. And I know that you've heard tonight from a group that are very dynamic, dedicated, and they really truly want to partner with the community, but also really want to highlight and elevate teachers within the schools who have a great deal of expertise and can support one another. And so I couldn't be happier to move forward this year with the kinds of plans that they've put in place and work alongside them to make sure that our students are achieving. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, principals.
Yep. Thank you very much. Appreciate all the hard work and dedication that you put in.
I know that was very long. Are there any questions?
That was thorough, good.
That's a good way to put it there, Mike. It was very good, thank you.
I know it's biased, but go Cheetahs.
And finally, I will turn it, it's because we have the board member item originally for the VSBA proposed legislative positions. And Mr. Hopkins, if it's okay, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. We have 4 legislative proposals here, and then another 6 that I don't think that were going to be considered, because the only way they could consider them is to suspend the rules, and we have over 100 delegates, and it takes 2/3 of them to suspend the rules. So I don't think we should probably be discussing anything but the first 4. But I will get a chance to vote on the first 4, so I'd like to know if the board has any objections to them, or again, making amendments. It's possible, but you have to submit your amendment ahead of the meeting. It's they just don't take amendments from the floor. But I'd be willing to try to do amendments if you would like to.
I'm good.
I guess I was asked, does anybody have any comments on the first 4 that you want to discuss?
I didn't see anything that stood out.
Right.
I can't hear you, Melissa.
I'm sorry, I didn't see anything that stood out.
Then I would entertain a motion to approve these 4 positions, please.
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Okay, I will support those 4 positions. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board, and that's all this evening for reports and recommendations.
And at this time, we're down to board member comments. Any comments from the board? Okay, hearing none, I will entertain closed session certification, please. Mr. Jones?
Pursuant to 2.2-3711A, the Code of Virginia, the Orange County School Board will convene a closed meeting for the following: discussion of personnel and the performance of a division employee as authorized by Section 2.2-3711A1 of the Code of Virginia for resignation, termination, transfer, employment, salary adjustment, and retirement of employees, to include, or in addition, the superintendent's evaluation. Also, discussion of pupil personnel is authorized by Section 2.2-3711A2 for early admission, waiver of compulsory attendance, out of county, out of district requests, and student discipline.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a second?
Second?
Okay, all in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Thank you. We're in closed session. certification, Mr. Jones.
Yes, ma'am. Whereas the Orange County School Board has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to the affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and whereas 2.2-3712D of the Code of Virginia requires certification by the school board that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Orange County School Board hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, 1, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed, and 2, only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, or considered.
Okay. Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Anderson?
Aye.
Mr. Hopkins?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Ms. Page?
Aye.
Madam Chair, the clerk certifies the vote as follows: 4 yes votes and no no votes. The resolution is approved by a 4-0 vote with 1 member absent.
Thank you. Dr. Hornick, does this come with your recommendation with disposition of personnel actions?
Yes, ma'am. Recommend approval of the personnel actions as presented in closed session.
Can I have a motion, please?
I make a motion that we approve the recommended personnel actions to include resignation, salary adjustment, employment, termination, transfer of staff, and extracurricular and coaching appointments.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Thank you. Disposition of pupil personnel actions, Dr. Hornick.
Yes, ma'am. Same to approve the pupil personnel actions as presented in closed session.
Okay, can I have a motion to accept disposition of pupil personnel actions, please?
I make a motion that we accept case PP 2024-17.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor by saying aye?
Aye.
Thank you. And at this time, if there is no other business, I will adjourn this meeting.
Thank you.